Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ray. I'm a detransition male. And today we have a pretty crazy video for you. We are going to be talking about castration and eunuchs and transgender healthcare. And I'm going to start off with this video from Dr. Gallagher, who is a famous TikTok gender surgeon. So she's all over social media posting about quote unquote gender affirming care, gender surgeries. And she's like a, very popular on social media, but also very controversial if you dig into her past. But she has this video called Testicle Removal for Folks Who Are Not Trans, which is just a pretty crazy video title if you think about it. Um, so let's see what Dr. Gallagher has to say about removing your testicles.
So, is it possible for folks who do not identify as transgender or non binary to get an orchiectomy? So, in this video, I want to talk about a group of individuals known as eunuchs. And so, eunuchs, broadly speaking, are folks who are assigned male at birth but may not be comfortable with the sexual characteristics. And in these patients, the medical community is beginning to understand that they can also benefit from gender affirmation surgery. And healthcare. And so, in some cases, this may mean orchiectomy or removal of the testicles. This group of individuals had an entire chapter devoted to them in the most recent guidelines, the WPATH, the World Professional Association of Transgender Health Standards of Care Guidelines. It's a group we don't know much about, but we need to improve on taking care of. So, traditionally, the concern in the medical community was that if we do remove the testicles and therefore there are only very small amounts of sex hormones circulating, what sort of health problems would this cause? And we know from certain studies which are done in orchiectomy patients, or where we remove the testicles for folks who had prostate cancer, it's a treatment for prostate cancer, that they had osteoporosis or bones that weren't dense, or sometimes cardiovascular problems, sometimes mood problems, loss of libido, that sort of thing. However, it is possible to substitute with small doses of estradiol or testosterone itself, and it just depends really on the needs of the patient. This is a group that have been really neglected by the medical community. It's a very interesting group. We need more studies, but we are beginning to recognize that some folks do need orchiectomies who do not necessarily identify as transgender or non binary.
Okay, so this is a pretty crazy thing to say. Okay, so there's so much there. The language of this is a community of people who've been neglected by the medical community. They've been neglected. They've been neglected because the medical community previously hasn't been more willing to cut off their testicles, even though it's not medically necessary, because they don't have prostate cancer. They're not even trans. They just for whatever reason, they need to have their testicles cut off. And the medical community has neglected them by not doing that more willingly. And this language of need, they need this done. They need this done to them. Well, what is that based on? I mean, so there's actually a lot of really interesting, um, you know, history behind this idea, because she mentioned uh, the WPATH, the World Professional Association of Transgender Health, and how they have a whole chapter on eunuchs, eunuch identified people. Well, this is one of the most controversial aspects of the most recent WPATH standards of care, which is held up by trans activists as being the gold standard for transgender healthcare. This is what all the medical professionals in gender medicine use to guide their gender affirming care, which we were all told is evidence based, it's rigorous, it's scientific, it's got lots of studies as well. um I do believe that this inclusion of the um, the eunuch identity just really shows that the WPATH has jumped the shark, because there's long been accusations that the WPATH is, it's basically an activist run organization now. Like it's not really using systematic, evidence-based, rigorous medicine standards and coming up with these you know uh standards. So this is actually the WPATH standards of care 8. This is the Eunuch chapter. So they say uh, the 8th version of standards of care includes a discussion of eunuch individuals because of their unique presentation and their need for medically necessary gender affirming care. It is medically necessary to cut off your testicles, even though Dr. Gallagher also said that doing so causes a whole host of, side effects. Well, in what universe is cutting off your testicles medically necessary? I mean, that is a complete distortion of what medical necessity means. Like, medical necessity means you're going to something bad is going to happen to you if this doesn't get done. Like, if you don't treat the cancer will kill you. So the cancer treatment is medically necessary. That's what it means. But here, it like medical necessity is a euphemism for psychological desire. This is all psychiatric. This is a mental health thing. But we're talking about mental health problems in terms of medical necessity. But it's worse than this, because this eunuch chapter is put in the standards of care based on like a fetish group, really. So here's this article from Redux. Top Trans Medical Association collaborated with castration child abuse fetishists. The World Professional Association of Transgender Health, the international association that sets guidelines for the medical transitioning of children, has been collaborating with participants of a fetish forum that hosts and produces fictional child porn. I don't even know if I can say that on YouTube, and extreme sadomasochistic content. So the WPATH refers extensively to research collected from a hardcore fetish site called the Eunuch Archives, a site that features child sexual exploitation fantasies centered around stopping little boys from going through puberty. I mean, I don't even know if I can read this article without being demonetized. It's so depraved. But basically, the long and short of it is these fetishists from the Eunuch Archive lobbied WPATH to get eunuch included as a quote unquote protected gender identity, even though it's a fetish. The eunuch identity is a fetish. And here's another article from Redux. London's Eunuch Maker was a queer activist and leading gender diversity organization. A man who came to international attention after being arrested for performing dozens of fetishistic castrations out of his home in North London can be revealed as a Norwegian activist affiliated with the powerful queer lobby group. Arrested with 6 other men. He told The Independent in an interview that had undergone an amateur orchiectomy himself and carried the operation out on 58 other men. This is depraved fetish stuff. And yet this is included in the WPATH, which is the the gold standard in gender medicine, which really just shows that gender medicine has completely jumped the shark. It's no longer even pretending to be evidence-based medicine. It's um it's just crazy. Well, if you can cut off your testicles and have that be considered medically necessary care, well, what if you have a fetish for or a body integrity identity disorder, amputee identity disorder, where you can have both your legs and you can desire to cut off your leg, and often this is connected with a fetish for being sexually attracted to amputees and wanting to be an amputee yourself. So people with this condition may refer to themselves as transabled. They're able-bodied, but they identify as being disabled. But when you bring this up to the trans community and you make an analogy with transgender healthcare and you say like, oh, well, what's the difference between having a desire to cut off your leg because you feel like you were born in the wrong body, like you feel like you should have been born without a leg, you know, people will dismiss it, say, "Oh, that's transphobic. It's not the same. It's not the same." Well, how is it not the same? But if you actually look at the treatment, the ethics of surgically amputating the undesired limb of a person with body integrity disorder are difficult and controversial. So it is considered controversial in biomedical ethics to treat this mental disorder by actually amputating the leg. Yet somehow in the most prestigious mental health or the most prestigious transgender health guidelines, it's considered medically necessary to cut off your testicles if you identify as a eunuch. How is that different? It's not different. It is exactly the same. And it both has its origins in a fetish. And to say, like, well, this body integrity thing is a mental disorder. Well, clearly, being a eunuch and wanting to cut off your testicles is also a mental disorder. So, if there are severe ethical questions that are controversial for cutting off your leg, then surely there are controversial and ethical questions about cutting off your testicles. Because at least when you cut off your leg, like, you're not going to mess up your hormones. You're not going to get osteoporosis and all this different stuff. But, Dr. Gallagher said he cut off your testicles, you're going to have all these medical problems. So it should be even more controversial to cut off your testicles, particularly if you don't even identify as trans. So this whole thing it's jumped the shark. It's so like out of control. And yeah, I don't know. It's just like doesn't make sense anymore. I just don't really understand it. So I just wanted to react to this video because Dr. Gallagher, testicle removal for folks who are not trans. I mean, that's just crazy. So okay, thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.